You have never had to defend your waterhole with a spear. You have never watched a group of strangers walk toward you and had to decide in 1 second if they meant trade or death. But somewhere in your chest, that decision still lives. The tightening, the sudden focus when a stranger's tone shifts. That is not modern anxiety. That is ancient wiring, and the question behind it is one researchers have argued over for decades. Were your ancestors peaceful by nature and violent only when forced? Or violent by nature and peaceful only when conditions allowed? The answer starts earlier than you think, and it is stranger than either side of that argument wants it to be. Go back almost 700,000 years. In Ethiopia, paleoanthropologist Tim White uncovered a skull belonging to an archaic human species, marked with deliberate cut patterns. Not animal bites, not erosion. Precise strokes made by a stone tool, done to the body around the time of death. Someone had processed another person's skull on purpose. That is the oldest direct evidence of one human ancestor doing something intentional and lethal to another. But go back further still to your closest living relatives. In 1974, primatologist Jane Goodall watched a single chimpanzee community in Tanzania split into two groups. Over 4 years, one group systematically hunted down and killed every adult male in the other, one by one using coordinated attacks. By the end, an entire community had been wiped out and its territory absorbed. Goodall called it what it looked like: war, without language, without culture, which means the capacity for organized violence was not invented by civilization, it was inherited by it. So was war always waiting to happen? Not exactly. Because here is where the story gets strange. In 2013, anthropologist Douglas Fry examined 21 archaeological sites containing human remains from before 10,000 years ago, the long era before farming and permanent settlement. Only 4 showed clear violence. Only 2 looked like anything resembling group conflict. The rest looked like accidents, or the ordinary homicide found in every human society. War, in the organized, sustained, group versus group sense, was rare. Why? Because nomadic foragers had almost nothing worth conquering: no stored food, no fixed land. If a neighboring group had nothing stockpiled, raiding them meant fighting people as hungry as you. The math did not favor violence. Then, something changed. Roughly 15,000 years ago, in a few resource-rich pockets of the world, some groups stopped moving. The Natufian culture of the Levant is the clearest case. They were not farmers yet, but they built permanent stone villages, harvested wild grain with sickles, and stored it. And then, around 12,900 years ago, a sudden severe cold event gripped the region for over a millennium, and wild food collapsed. Archaeologist Marta Mirazon-Lar and colleagues found something new in the skeletons from that period. Skull fractures, embedded projectile points. People who had spent years building homes and storing grain on a specific patch of land could not simply walk away when the food ran out. So they fought for it. And the clearest, most brutal proof of that shift sits at a place called Nataruk in Kenya. In 2016, Lar published findings on 27 skeletons dating back 10,000 years, found near what was once a lagoon. 12 of them showed direct violent trauma. A man with a stone point still lodged in his skull, a person bound at the knees before death. A woman who appears to have been pregnant when she died. These were not warriors caught in battle. They were an entire group, including children, attacked at once. In an increasingly dry landscape, that lagoon was the only thing standing between life and starvation. Whoever controlled the water controlled survival. That is not proof that war is human nature. It is proof that war is what happens when scarcity meets a group that cannot retreat. Then agriculture arrived everywhere, and it made that equation permanent. Stored surplus creates wealth. Wealth creates people with something to lose and people with nothing who might take it. In South Dakota, archaeologists uncovered a mass grave of nearly 500 people from a single village. Dated to the 1300s, almost every skeleton scarred by scalping and mutilation during a period of severe drought. In Germany, a mass grave from around 5000 BCE held 34 people, men, women, and children, all struck from behind while fleeing or restrained. In Austria, a similar site held the remains of at least 67 people, and the bodies of young women and children were simply missing. Taken. Every tactic in written history, the raid, the siege, the massacre, the captive, first appears in the bones of early farming villages. Because every one of those tactics follows directly from what farming created. So was it hatred? Was it some darkness in the human soul? Not really. It was resource competition paired with the sudden inability to walk away, paired with the organizational skill that settled life makes possible. But here is the twist. The same wiring that built war also built peace. The ability to coordinate large groups of strangers toward one goal, to hold alliances across distance and time, to enforce agreements through social pressure. That is not a weapon. It is a tool, and tools can point in either direction. What changed across human history was never human nature. It was human scale. A Paleolithic raid involved dozens of people. A Bronze Age battle involved thousands. Every time the circle of who counts as us has widened, from clan to city to nation to something larger, violence has measurably contracted. Not disappeared. Contracted. The people who killed the group at Nataruk did not see them as us. They were the people standing between them and the water. That line, us and them, is older than language, older than fire, older than your own species. It ran through the chimpanzees at Gombe. It ran through the hands that marked the Bodo Skull. And it is still running quietly in you right now, sorting every stranger you meet into familiar or foreign, safe or suspicious. The oldest confirmed massacre in the human story happened 10,000 years ago at the edge of a lagoon, over water. Nobody remembers the names of the people who died there, but their bones remembered the reason, and that reason has been repeated in every century since, in every language, with every new weapon humanity has ever built. The bones are 10,000 years old. The story is not finished yet.